I never thought a simple credit card would expose the ugly truth about my family. But sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones ready to drain your bank account without a second thought. My name is Jessica Miller, and I'm 32 years old, working as a senior accountant here in Denver. Last year, when my dad Robert had his heart attack, I made what I thought was a caring decision. I gave my parents an emergency credit card with a $5,000 limit, strictly for medical emergencies only. Just in case something happens and you need money fast, I told them, sliding the card across their kitchen table. The relief in my mother Patricia's eyes seemed genuine. "You always know how to take care of this family, sweetheart," she said, squeezing my hand. But what I discovered 3 months later would shatter everything I believed about family love. It started on a quiet Thursday evening. I was organizing my monthly finances, something I do religiously as an accountant, when I logged into my credit card account to check the emergency card balance. My heart stopped. The available credit showed $0, $5,000, completely maxed out. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the transactions. Maui Grand Resort, $800 per night for 5 nights. First-class airline tickets to Hawaii, $1,200 each. Sunset dinner cruise, $300. Premium spa treatments, $400. High-end restaurant charges, shopping sprees, luxury car rental. Every single charge was from Hawaii, and they were all dated from last week when my 28-year-old sister Ashley had supposedly gone on a much-needed mental health break. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. This wasn't a mental health retreat. This was a luxury vacation funded by my emergency money. My phone rang. Dad's contact photo filled the screen, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. Not yet. I needed to see how deep this betrayal went first. I kept scrolling through the charges, each one feeling like a slap in the face. Ashley had used my emergency fund to live like a queen while I had been working 60-hour weeks, carefully budgeting every dollar of my own money. The next morning, I called my parents. My voice was steady, professional, the tone I used with difficult clients. "Dad, I need to ask you about the emergency credit card." There was a pause. Then Dad's voice, slightly defensive. "Oh, that. Well, Ashley really needed a break, Jessica. She's been so stressed with her job situation, and you know how hard it's been for her since the divorce." "The emergency card was for medical emergencies, Dad. We specifically discussed this." "Now, honey," Mom's voice joined the call. They had me on speaker. "You have to understand, Ashley's mental health is a medical emergency. She was so depressed, and the doctor said she needed to get away from stress. You can afford it anyway." Those 4 words hit me like a physical blow. You can afford it. Not, "We're sorry." Not, "We should have asked." Not, "We'll pay you back immediately." Just the assumption that because I had worked hard, saved money, and built a stable life, I was obligated to fund my sister's luxury vacation. "So you used $5,000 of my money without asking me?" "It's not like that, sweetie," Mom said, her voice taking on that patient tone she used when she thought I was being unreasonable. "Family helps family. You've always been the responsible one, and Ashley needs support right now. We knew you'd understand once we explained." "Did you think to call me and ask first?" Silence. Then, Dad cleared his throat. "Well, we knew you might worry about the money, and Ashley needed to book the trip quickly to get the good rates. We figured it was better to ask for forgiveness than permission." Ask for forgiveness than permission. For $5,000, for maxing out a card I'd given them in good faith for genuine emergencies. "Besides," Ashley's voice suddenly joined the call. Apparently, they had her on another line from Hawaii. "It's not like you're hurting for money, Jess. You and Michael have that nice house, your fancy job. I'm barely getting by with the divorce and everything. Can't you just be happy that your little sister got to have something nice for once?" The entitlement in her voice was breathtaking. She was calling me from a luxury resort that I was unknowingly paying for, asking me to be happy about it. "Ashley, you're 28 years old. I'm not responsible for funding your vacations." "God, you're so selfish sometimes," Ashley snapped. "Mom and Dad raised us to take care of each other. Just because you got lucky with your career doesn't mean you get to act all high and mighty. Lucky. As if my CPA certification, my years of 70-hour work weeks, my careful financial planning, my sacrifice of social time to build my career, as if all of that was just luck. I have to go, I said, ending the call before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation, analyzing every word like a forensic accountant examining fraud, which, I was beginning to realize, was exactly what this was. They had taken my money under false pretenses, used it for purposes completely opposite to what we'd agreed on, and now they were trying to make me feel guilty for being upset about it. I found myself Googling family financial boundaries and narcissistic family patterns at 2 in the morning. The articles I found were like reading my own story written by strangers, the golden child who becomes the family ATM, the parents who use guilt and obligation to justify financial manipulation, the siblings who resent your success while simultaneously expecting to benefit from it. Michael found me in my office the next morning, still in my pajamas, surrounded by printed articles about financial abuse within families. "Jess, you okay? You missed breakfast." I looked up at my husband, this wonderful man who had never once asked me for money, never assumed my success was his to enjoy, never made me feel like an ATM with legs. My family used the emergency credit card for Ashley's vacation to Hawaii, $5,000. Michael's face went through several expressions: confusion, anger, disbelief. They what? They maxed out the card I gave them for medical emergencies, for Ashley's vacation, and when I confronted them, they told me I can afford it and that I should be happy for her. Michael sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. "Jess, that's financial abuse. That's fraud." Hearing him say it out loud made something click into place in my brain. It was fraud. If a stranger had used my credit card without permission for personal purchases, I would have called the police immediately. But because it was family, I was supposed to just accept it? Because I could afford it? "What are you going to do?" Michael asked. I looked at him, then at the articles scattered across my desk, then at my phone showing 17 missed calls from various family members. "I don't know yet, but I know I'm not going to let them get away with this." The rest of that day, I did what I do best. I researched. I read every article about credit card fraud, unauthorized usage, family financial boundaries, and toxic family dynamics. I learned about chargebacks, disputed transactions, and the legal rights of card holders. I took screenshots of every single transaction, saved every text message, and started documenting everything. By evening, I had a plan. The next morning was Saturday. I knew Ashley was still in Hawaii. Her Instagram stories showed her at a beachside brunch that probably cost more than most people's grocery budget for a week. My parents would be at home, probably expecting me to call and apologize for being dramatic about the money. Instead, I called my credit card company. "Hi, I need to report unauthorized charges on my account and cancel a card immediately." The customer service representative was professional and efficient. "I can help you with that. Can you tell me which charges you're disputing?" "All charges from the past week. The card was used without my permission by family members for personal purchases, after I explicitly told them it was only for medical emergencies." "I see. And you want to dispute approximately $5,000 in charges?" "Yes, and I want the card canceled immediately so no additional charges can be made." "No problem. The card is now canceled and we'll start the dispute process. You should see the charges reversed within 5 to 7 business days pending investigation. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "Actually, yes. Can you tell me what happens if someone tries to use the canceled card?" "Any attempted transactions will be declined immediately. If they're at a hotel or resort that has the card on file for incidental charges, those will also be declined." "Perfect." My phone started ringing an hour later. Ashley's contact photo filled the screen, but I let it go to voicemail. Then Mom called, then Dad, then Ashley again. I turned my phone on silent and went for a run. When I got back, I had 12 missed calls and 7 voicemails. I listened to the first one from Ashley. "Jess, what the hell did you do? The hotel is saying my card is declined for the spa appointment, and they're asking for another form of payment. This is so embarrassing. Call me back right now." The second voicemail was from Mom. "Jessica Marie Miller, you call us back this instant. Ashley is stranded in Hawaii and can't pay for anything. What were you thinking?" Stranded. As if Hawaii was some remote island with no banks, no ATMs, no way for a grown woman to access her own money. The third message was from Dad, and his tone was different, angry in a way I hadn't heard since I was a teenager. "Jessica, this is completely unacceptable. You can't just cancel cards without warning when your sister is depending on them. We raised you better than this. You're being vindictive and cruel." Vindictive and cruel. For protecting my own money from being stolen. I called Michael at work. "It's done. I canceled the card and disputed all the charges. How are you feeling?" "Honestly, like I should have done this the moment I saw the charges. They're calling me vindictive for not letting them spend my money without permission." "Jess, you know this is going to get ugly, right? They're not going to just accept this." "I know, but I'm done being their ATM. If Ashley wanted a vacation, she should have saved for it herself or asked me properly instead of just stealing the money." That evening, my parents showed up at my house unannounced. Michael answered the door while I watched from the living room window. "Is Jessica home?" Mom's voice carried through the door. "We need to talk to her about this situation with Ashley." Michael stepped aside to let them in, and I walked to the entryway. Mom's face was red with anger, and Dad looked like he hadn't slept. "Jessica, you need to fix this right now," Mom started before she was even fully in the house. "Ashley is stuck in Hawaii with no way to pay for her hotel or her flight home. The resort is threatening to call security if she can't settle her bill. Then she should use her own money," I said calmly. "She doesn't have that kind of money. You know she's been struggling since the divorce." "Then she shouldn't have booked a $5,000 vacation." Dad stepped forward, his face flushed. "That's our decision to make, not yours. We're her parents, and we decided she needed this trip. You had no right to cancel that card without warning." "I had every right. It's my card, in my name, from my bank account. You used it for purposes completely different from what we agreed on." "We're family," Mom's voice cracked. "Family takes care of each other. When did you become so cold and selfish?" There it was again. Selfish. Because I wouldn't let them steal from me, I was selfish. "Taking care of family doesn't mean unlimited access to my bank account," I said. "If Ashley needed help, you should have asked me first. Instead, you took $5,000 without permission, and now you're trying to make me the villain for being upset about it." "Ashley is having a panic attack at the resort," Mom continued, tears starting to flow. "She's humiliated, scared, and doesn't know how she's going to get home. Is this what you wanted?" The manipulation was so textbook it was almost impressive. Turn Ashley into the victim. Make me responsible for her emotions, her poor planning, her humiliation. Make me the bad guy for protecting my own money. What I wanted was for the emergency credit card to be used for emergencies. What I didn't want was to find out my family was stealing from me and then telling me I should be grateful for it. "We weren't stealing!" Dad exploded. "We're your parents. We raised you, fed you, clothed you, put you through college. And I've spent the last 10 years being grateful for that. I've helped with Mom's medical bills. I've given you money for home repairs. I've paid for family dinners more times than I can count. But none of that gives you the right to take my money without asking." Chew. The fight continued for another hour, going in circles. They accused me of being heartless, selfish, vindictive. I accused them of financial abuse and manipulation. In the end, they left with nothing resolved, and Ashley still stuck in Hawaii with a hotel bill she couldn't pay. That night, as I lay in bed next to Michael, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. For the first time in my adult life, I had set a real boundary with my family and held firm. It hurt. It was messy. It was going to have consequences, but I was done being their backup plan, their safety net, their ATM machine. I was done being the responsible one who always had to sacrifice for everyone else's happiness. The real war was just beginning, but for the first time, I was fighting back. The week that followed was the hardest of my life, but also the most liberating. While my phone buzzed constantly with increasingly desperate calls from my family, I spent my time doing something I'd never done before. I educated myself about what was really happening to me. I discovered terms I'd never heard before but recognized instantly: financial abuse, emotional manipulation, golden child syndrome, family scapegoating. I read about narcissistic family systems where one person becomes the designated provider while others feel entitled to their resources. Every article felt like someone had been secretly watching my family for years. The most eye-opening discovery was learning about parentification, when a child is forced to take on adult responsibilities, including financial ones, for their family's emotional or practical needs. I realized I'd been financially parentified since college, when my parents started hinting that my accounting degree meant I should help with their taxes, their budgeting, their financial emergencies. Michael found me on Sunday morning, laptop open to a psychology forum where adult children shared their stories about setting boundaries with financially abusive families. "How are you holding up?" he asked, setting a cup of coffee next to my computer. "I'm angry," I said, and saying it out loud felt like a revelation. "I'm so angry, Michael. For 20 years, I've been the family problem solver, the responsible one, the backup plan, and they've trained me to feel guilty about saying no." "What changed your mind? You seemed conflicted yesterday." I showed him an article titled "The Family ATM: How Good People Become Financial Victims." "This paragraph right here," I said, reading aloud. "Financially abusive family members rarely see themselves as abusers. They genuinely believe their need justifies their actions, and they'll use every emotional weapon available to make their victims feel selfish for protecting their own resources." Michael nodded slowly. "That sounds exactly like your parents yesterday." "The article says the only way to stop it is to completely cut off the financial supply and refuse to discuss exceptions, no matter how urgent or emotional they make it sound." I looked at him seriously. "Are you okay with this getting worse before it gets better? Because according to everything I've read, they're going to escalate." He squeezed my shoulder. "Jess, I've watched your family drain you emotionally and financially for years. I'm proud of you for finally fighting back." That afternoon, I called the Maui Grand Resort directly. After being transferred twice, I reached the manager on duty. "Hi, this is Jessica Miller. I believe you have my sister Ashley Miller as a guest, and there may be some billing issues with her stay." "Yes, Ms. Miller. We've been trying to reach someone about this. The credit card we have on file for incidental charges has been declined, and Ms. Ashley owes approximately $3,200 for additional services, spa treatments, and dining charges beyond her room rate." My heart pounded. Even after I'd canceled the card, Ashley had continued racking up charges, apparently believing the magic money tree would keep producing. "I need to clarify something important. That credit card was used without my authorization. I've already disputed all charges with my bank." There was a pause. "I see. So you're saying Ms. Ashley doesn't have permission to use this card?" "That's correct. And I need to give you an alternate address for any outstanding bills." I provided my parents' home address in Colorado. "Any charges she's incurred are her responsibility, not mine." "We'll need to speak with Ms. Ashley about settling her account immediately. Thank you for clarifying the billing situation." After I hung up, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and dread. I'd just cut the last financial rope my family had to my accounts. Whatever happened next, they'd have to figure it out without my money. My phone rang 2 hours later. Ashley calling from Hawaii, and this time I answered. "Jessica, what the hell is wrong with you?" Her voice was shrill, panicked. "The hotel manager just called me and said I owe over $3,000 and that you told them not to charge your card anymore." "That's right. I told them I didn't authorize any of those charges. But I'm stuck here. My flight isn't until tomorrow, and they're saying I can't leave until I pay the bill." "Then you should pay it." "With what money? I don't have $3,000. "Ashley, you booked a vacation you couldn't afford using money that wasn't yours. This is called a natural consequence." "Don't you dare lecture me about consequences. Mom and Dad said you were being vindictive, but I didn't believe them until now. You're actually going to leave your own sister stranded in Hawaii?" I took a deep breath, remembering what I'd read about maintaining boundaries during emotional manipulation. I'm not leaving you stranded, Ashley. You stranded yourself by spending money you didn't have. You're an adult. Figure it out. I can't believe you're doing this to me. After everything our family has been through, after Dad's heart attack, after my divorce, you're really going to punish me for taking one vacation? I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself from being stolen from again. It wasn't stealing. Mom and Dad gave me permission to use the card. Mom and Dad don't own that card. I do. They had no right to give permission for my money. Ashley was crying now. Jessica, please, I'm begging you. I'll pay you back, I promise. Just fix this with the hotel so I can come home. For a moment, I felt the old familiar tug of guilt. Ashley sounded genuinely distressed, and every instinct I'd been trained with since childhood screamed at me to rescue her. But then I remembered the spa charges, the luxury dinners, the casual way she'd told me I could afford it. Ashley, you've been in Hawaii for a week living like a millionaire with my money. You've had multiple opportunities to budget responsibly or cut your trip short when you realized you were overspending. Instead, you kept charging more and more, assuming I'd just pay for it. I'm not fixing this for you. You're destroying our family over money. I'm protecting my family, my husband, and myself from financial abuse. If that destroys our extended family, maybe that tells us something important about what kind of family we really were. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Then I blocked my parents' numbers too. For the first time in 20 years, my phone was quiet. Michael found me in our bedroom that evening, staring at the ceiling. No word from Hawaii? I blocked them, all of them. He lay down beside me. How does that feel? Terrifying and peaceful. I keep waiting for the guilt to hit, but mostly I just feel free. The next morning brought a new development. My doorbell rang at 7 a.m., and I opened it to find a woman in a professional suit holding a clipboard. Jessica Miller? Yes? I'm Sarah Chen from Rocky Mountain Credit Recovery. We're here about an outstanding hotel bill that's been transferred to your address for collection. My stomach dropped. I'm sorry, what? She showed me a bill from the Maui Grand Resort, made out to the Miller family and listing my home address. The amount was $247.83. This bill was sent to us by the Maui Grand Resort for collection. The guest, Ashley Miller, listed this as her billing address before she left the hotel. I stared at the document, rage building in my chest. Ashley had actually given the hotel my address and tried to stick me with her bill. Ma'am, I need to clarify something. I am not responsible for Ashley Miller's hotel charges. She's my adult sister who used my credit card without authorization. I've already disputed those charges with my bank. Sarah Chen looked confused. The hotel has you listed as the guarantor for the account? I never signed anything guaranteeing Ashley's charges. She committed fraud by using my credit card, and now she's trying to commit more fraud by making me responsible for additional charges I never agreed to. I invited Sarah Chen inside and spent the next hour showing her my documentation. The bank disputes, my call logs with the hotel, the screenshots of Ashley's Instagram posts from her luxury vacation. I explained that I'd given my parents an emergency credit card for medical purposes only, and they'd given it to Ashley for a personal vacation. This is quite complicated, Sarah Chen admitted. We'll need to investigate this further before proceeding with any collection activities against you. In the meantime, I'd recommend you contact the hotel directly to clarify the guarantor situation. After she left, I called the Maui Grand Resort again, this time asking for their legal department. The conversation was enlightening. Ms. Miller, your sister did list your address as her billing address when she checked out, but we have no signed guarantee from you for her charges. She claimed you were handling all her expenses for the trip. I never agreed to handle any of her expenses beyond the fraudulent credit card charges I've already disputed. Ashley lied to you. We suspected as much when she became evasive about payment. She eventually settled her account using multiple credit cards and what appeared to be a cash advance, but not before trying to convince our staff that you had agreed to cover all charges. So Ashley had found a way to pay after all, but not before trying to stick me with the bill. The level of manipulation was breathtaking. That afternoon, my phone, now unblocked because I needed to handle the collection agency situation, exploded with messages. Apparently, Ashley had made it home and the full family war council had been convened. The first call was from my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister. "Jessica, honey, your mother called me crying. She says you left Ashley stranded in Hawaii and now you're not taking their calls. What's going on?" I explained the situation calmly, sticking to the facts. Unauthorized use of my credit card, refusal to pay me back, attempts to make me pay additional charges I never agreed to. "Oh my," Aunt Linda said when I finished. "That doesn't sound like the story your mother told me." "What did Mom tell you?" "She said you gave Ashley permission to use the card for her trip, then changed your mind and canceled it while she was still in Hawaii, leaving her with no way to get home." There it was, the family narrative being rewritten in real time. I was no longer the victim of fraud. I was the unstable sister who'd had a mental breakdown and attacked poor Ashley for no reason. "Aunt Linda, I have screenshots of every transaction, recordings of my conversations with the credit card company, and documentation from the hotel. Would you like me to send them to you?" "Oh, Jessica, I don't need to see all that. I just want our family to work this out." But I sent them anyway. And I sent them to my Uncle Tom, my cousin Sarah, and my grandmother. If my parents wanted to spread their version of events, I'd make sure people had access to the truth. The response was swift and illuminating. Aunt Linda called back within 2 hours. "Jessica, I had no idea it was this serious. Your mother made it sound like a misunderstanding, but these bank statements? Ashley really did spend $5,000 without asking you?" "Yes, and then tried to stick me with another $3,000 in additional charges." "Honey, I'm so sorry. I had no idea your parents were— this isn't how families should treat each other." One by one, my extended family members called with similar responses. My cousin Sarah was particularly blunt. "Jess, this is financial abuse. Mom and I dealt with something similar with my brother last year. You did the right thing by cutting them off." But the family members who mattered most remained silent. My parents and Ashley had apparently decided that if they couldn't guilt me directly, they'd isolate me instead. The isolation campaign began in earnest the following week. My mother posted on Facebook about fair-weather family members who abandon their loved ones in times of need. Ashley shared articles about toxic siblings who use money to control others. My father, who rarely used social media, suddenly started sharing posts about family loyalty and unconditional love. None of them mentioned the fraud, the unauthorized charges, or the attempts to stick me with additional bills. In their narrative, I was simply a cruel sister who'd heartlessly abandoned Ashley in Hawaii for no reason. But something interesting happened as the week progressed. Instead of feeling ashamed or pressured to apologize, I felt stronger. Each passive-aggressive post, each guilt-laden article share, each obvious attempt to manipulate me through social media just reinforced that I'd made the right decision. Michael noticed the change. "You seem different this week. More centered." "I think I'm done caring what they think," I said, realizing it was true as I said it. "For 30 years, I've twisted myself into knots trying to keep everyone happy. I've sacrificed my own financial security, my peace of mind, my boundaries, all to avoid being called selfish. But you know what? Maybe it's time to be a little selfish." That weekend, I did something I'd never done before. I went shopping for myself. Really shopping, not just buying necessities or things for the house. I bought a beautiful dress I'd been admiring for months, but had told myself was too expensive. I bought expensive skincare products. I got a massage and a manicure. As I sat in the nail salon, getting pampered with money that I'd earned and saved and didn't have to share with anyone who demanded it, I felt something click into place. This was what it felt like to prioritize my own needs. This was what it felt like to not be the family ATM. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Ashley, apparently using someone else's phone since I'd blocked her. "Jessica, I hope you're happy. Mom had to go to the emergency room today because of the stress you've caused. Dad says if something happens to her, it's on you. Is this really worth destroying our family?" I stared at the text, waiting for the familiar panic, the rushing guilt, the immediate need to fix everything. Instead, I felt nothing. Or rather, I felt tired. Tired of being responsible for everyone else's emotions. Tired of being blamed for other people's poor choices. tired of being the villain whenever I stood up for myself. I didn't respond to the text. Instead, I called Michael. They're saying Mom's in the emergency room because of me. And what do you think about that? I think if Mom's having stress-related health problems, it's probably because she's realized that her plan to use me as the family bank account isn't working anymore. I think she's having to face the fact that Ashley's going to need to grow up and be financially responsible for herself, and that's scary for all of them. Are you going to call the hospital? I thought about it for a long moment. A month ago, I would have been in my car driving to the hospital before I even finished reading the text. I would have apologized, promised to pay Ashley back, begged forgiveness for being so selfish about my money. No, I said finally. If Mom's really sick, Dad can handle it. If she's not, then this is just more manipulation. Either way, I'm not playing the game anymore. That evening, I got a call from Aunt Linda. Jessica, I heard about your mom. Are you going to visit her? What exactly did you hear? Your dad called and said she collapsed from stress and had to be taken to the emergency room. He's saying it's because of this whole situation with Ashley and the credit card. Aunt Linda, do you really think my mom had a medical emergency because I wouldn't let my sister steal $5,000 from me? There was a long pause. When you put it like that, it does sound a bit dramatic. Has anyone actually confirmed she's in the hospital, or are we just taking Dad's word for it? Another pause. You know what, Jessica? You're right to ask. Let me make some calls. Aunt Linda called back an hour later. I talked to your cousin Mike. He works at Presbyterian St. Joseph. There's no record of your mother being admitted today. The lie was so blatant, so manipulative, that I actually laughed. They'd literally fabricated a medical emergency to try to guilt me into backing down. If I'd had any remaining doubts about my decision to cut them off financially, this erased them completely. That night, I sat down and wrote an email. Not to my parents or Ashley, but to my extended family members, the aunts, uncles, and cousins who'd been hearing various versions of this story. Subject: setting the record straight. I wrote out the entire timeline, attaching screenshots of the fraudulent charges, copies of my bank disputes, documentation from the hotel collection attempts, and evidence that Mom's hospital emergency had been completely fabricated. I explained that I wasn't asking anyone to choose sides, but I wanted them to have accurate information. I understand that setting financial boundaries with family is uncomfortable, I wrote in closing, but I refuse to be financially abused anymore, and I won't be manipulated into feeling guilty for protecting myself. I love my family, but love doesn't mean unlimited access to my bank account. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The responses started coming within hours. Support from family members I'd barely talked to in years, apologies from relatives who'd initially believed my parents' version of events, and most importantly, several messages from cousins sharing their own stories of financial abuse within the family. My cousin Rachel called the next day. Jess, I had to tell you, Uncle Robert tried this exact same thing with me 3 years ago. He asked to borrow $2,000 for Ashley's car repairs, then got furious when I asked him to sign a promissory note. He called me selfish and told the whole family I was being unreasonable. Did you give him the money? I did, like an idiot. And of course, I never saw it back. Ashley got her car fixed, and 6 months later, she was posting pictures of her expensive girls' trip to Vegas. I realized the car repairs had probably been bull from the beginning. As I listened to Rachel's story, then to similar accounts from 2 other cousins over the next few days, a picture emerged. I wasn't the first family member to be financially exploited by my parents and Ashley. I was just the first one to fight back publicly. The family had a pattern. Identify the most financially stable member, create an emergency that required immediate help, use guilt and family obligation to secure the money, then never pay it back or acknowledge it as a loan. When that person eventually objected, they'd be labeled as selfish and cruel, and the family would move on to the next target. I'd been the primary target for years because I had the highest income and the strongest sense of family duty. But now that I'd cut off the supply, they were panicking. Without my steady financial contributions, they'd actually have to live within their means. 3 weeks after the Hawaii incident, I got a final text from my father's number. Jessica, we've tried to be patient with your tantrum, but enough is enough. Ashley has learned her lesson, and your mother is devastated by your cruelty. We're willing to forgive you if you apologize to the family and make this right. But this is your last chance. Choose your family or choose your money. You can't have both." I stared at the text for a long time, marveling at the complete lack of self-awareness. They'd stolen my money, lied about me to relatives, fabricated medical emergencies, and tried to stick me with fraudulent hotel bills. And now they were generously offering to forgive me if I apologized and made things right, which clearly meant paying Ashley back and probably covering her additional expenses too. For the first time in this entire ordeal, I responded immediately. I choose my money, my boundaries, and my self-respect. I also choose family members who treat me with honesty and respect, rather than viewing me as a source of funding. If those family members aren't you, then I guess that tells us everything we need to know about our relationship. I hit send, then blocked their number permanently. 6 months later, I ran into my father at the grocery store. We saw each other from opposite ends of an aisle, and for a moment we just stared. He looked older, tired. I wondered if I looked different too, stronger maybe, or just less burdened. He walked over slowly. "Jessica." "Dad? How are you doing?" "I'm good. Really good. You?" He nodded but didn't answer directly. "Your mother misses you?" "I miss her too. I miss all of you." "Then why don't you just come home? We can work this out." I studied his face, looking for any sign that he understood what had really happened, any acknowledgement that they'd crossed a line. Instead, I saw the same expectation I'd been seeing my whole life, that I would be the one to bend, to compromise, to sacrifice my own needs for the family's comfort. "Dad, I'd be happy to work things out, but that would require acknowledging that taking my money without permission was wrong and making sure it never happens again. Are you prepared to do that?" His face hardened. "That money meant nothing to you, Jessica. You spend more than that on your fancy vacations." There it was again. The assumption that my money wasn't really mine, that my success was somehow communal property that they had a right to access. "That money meant something to me because I earned it," I said quietly. "And more importantly, the trust meant something to me. You broke that trust. We're family," he said, as if that explained everything. "Yes, we are. And family members should treat each other with respect, which includes respecting each other's financial boundaries." We stood there for a moment longer, at an impasse that felt as familiar as it was sad. Finally, he shook his head and walked away. As I watched him leave, I felt a deep sadness, but no regret. I'd offered them a path forward, acknowledgement, and changed behavior, and they'd rejected it in favor of maintaining the status quo where I was responsible for everyone else's financial needs. That evening, I told Michael about the encounter. "Do you ever regret cutting them off?" he asked. "I regret that it was necessary," I said. "I regret that they couldn't love me without seeing me as a source of funding. But I don't regret protecting us from financial abuse. Look at what we've been able to do with our money in the past 6 months." He smiled. "The emergency fund is fully funded for the first time ever. We paid off your student loans early. We're finally saving for that house down payment. And I don't lie awake at night wondering what financial emergency I'll be expected to solve next." For the first time in my adult life, I was building wealth for my own family instead of constantly bailing out my extended family. My marriage was stronger because I wasn't stressed about money. My career was thriving because I wasn't distracted by family financial drama. I'd learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to stop enabling their dysfunction. By cutting off their access to easy money, I'd forced them to confront their own financial reality. Maybe that would lead to growth and change, or maybe it wouldn't. But either way, it wasn't my responsibility to manage their choices or cushion them from the consequences. I was 33 years old, and for the first time in my life, I was truly free.